Welcome to another episode of the Presbyterian and Reformed Churchman. I'm Pastor George, and I actually have the first interview of this podcast, of this new podcast where we have discussions with and about ruling elders. And I thought for the first episode, what I wanted to do is interview or have a discussion with Richard Jones. Richard is the Clerk of Session here at Meadowview. But he's just been a real great encouragement to me, and he has been involved in all aspects of church life and eldering here at Meadowview. He's taught new members. He routinely teaches our new members class. He's done officer training. Richard was even instrumental in helping pull off General Assembly in Greensboro, I think, in 2017. And so I thought he'd be a great one to start our conversation with and just talk to. So thanks, Richard, for being on this kind of an inaugural episode of this podcast.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. So how long you been at Meadowview?
1997, right around there. So
was that 25 years?
25 years.
Okay. 25. Were you a part of a PCA church before that?
No.
Okay, so what brought you to Meadowview?
Well, it's an interesting story. In our past, when we were living in the Virginia Beach, Virginia area, we were going to an EPC Presbyterian church, and that was really our first taste of Presbyterian church. But it was Presbyterian, but they didn't talk about Presbyterian stuff. It was much more almost charismatic in a lot of ways, that particular church. But it was kind of an introduction to Presbyterianism. And I'd taken a job in Arkansas, and we were transferred out to a little town called El Dorado, Arkansas. And that particular town had one Presbyterian church, and we went and visited it. And it was like 20 people. And they were 60s, 70s, 80s, and we had, 3 small children at the time. So it just wasn't a good fit. We ended up in a non-denominational church there in El Dorado. But when we moved to Lexington in 96, we were looking for churches, and not necessarily Presbyterian at that time. We were just looking for a church that kind of fit what we were doing out there. A lot of, activities for the children primarily was a big focus for us. But we were just kind of struggling to find a church. And Jennifer and the kids had went to the barbecue festival that fall of 96. And Meadowview had a booth. A former youth leader, youth pastor was there with probably some youth, I guess, just handing out materials on the church. And she picked it up. And when I got back from a work trip, we kind of talked about it. And so, well, let's go try it out. So that would have been late fall, probably early winter of 96. And once we went the first time, we just never stopped coming.
So to listeners who aren't from the area, Lexington, North Carolina is known as the barbecue capital.
That's right.
Is it the world or the country, Richard?
Well, if you're talking to the people around here, it's the whole world.
It's the whole world.
But
yeah. So they have an annual barbecue festival that brings into our small town about 250,000 people every year to this festival, where there's all kinds of barbecue being served. But there's booths. I love that Meadowview had an outreach there, and
right.
We haven't had that since since I've been here. I've never seen it. So
probably that might have been the only time we did it. I don't remember us doing it after that. They might have, and I just didn't know about it. So
yeah, and when I got here, our presbytery meetings were always on the same Saturday. And last year, you and we were a part of getting the presbytery to see if they could change the calendar, and part of that was maybe we could do outreaches at the barbecue festival again. And so,
right,
yeah, and I know Pastor Pablo was there, was able to go this last year, and so we're thinking of that. And so, okay, so 25 years almost, and like you said, you don't have a Presbyterian background very much. You were in an EPC church and like that. But at what point did you become a ruling elder here?
I believe it was 2004.
Okay.
So we've been going to the church, almost 5 years. A little over that. About 7 years. We've been going to the church. We were at the old campus originally. When they moved over to our current location, we were part of that move, and we were involved in a life group at the time. And the life group had gotten pretty big, and we had split off. And one of the groups that we split off with, I was kind of the moderator of that, or kind of the facilitator, was the better term, for that group. Just as you spend more time in the PCA and you're kind of seeing how things are governed, I fell in love with the governance of the denomination, and then the history of the Reformation, and you're starting to learn more about the Reformation, and I became intrigued by it, and then through facilitating this group, I started to recognize that I had ability to teach. On that level, and kind of started pursuing that, and that led to being asked to teach an adult Bible hour, going through some training that was done back then on that. Spent some time with Jeremy Sink, when in a class that he was teaching at the time. That's before he left to go plant a church in Asheboro. So in the conversations with the pastor at that time, there was a nomination period, and I was nominated, and he talked to me about it, and he believed that I had that gifting, and I was feeling led to that particular call too. So just pursued it. At that time, went through the training just like we do now, and then was elected by the congregation to serve.
Yeah. So to me, you are like Mr. PCA, and so I love that. Like I said, that you weren't, you didn't grow up in the denomination, but you're our clerk of session. You've been a huge encouragement to me. As a matter of fact, you were on sabbatical. Our session does those sabbaticals every once in a while. When that committee was hiring me to be the executive pastor here, and so I kept hearing your name bandied about, and it wasn't until I did a visit here, and you were our tour guide, Susan, myself. Were the kids with us then?
I don't think so. I think it was just the two of you.
Yeah. Yeah, that first visit, it was just the two of us.
I remember being a rainy day. It wasn't the prettiest day either.
Right. It was November. Yeah. We drove you took us all over the county.
Yeah.
And, I just remember too, like your heart to want to be engaged in the process, even though you were on sabbatical. And so it was, it was great to have had that time with you. So, I was shocked to hear that our little presbytery, Piedmont Triad, and when I say that, I don't say that negatively. We are a small presbytery, about 12 churches, that we actually hosted General Assembly. And so what year was that?
That's
17?
It don't seem like it was that long ago, though.
Well,
maybe that was it. I don't.
Yeah. I got here in the beginning of 19. I don't think it was 18.
Then. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So it was Greensboro, GA. People that are listening may remember. Maybe you're trying to forget, Richard.
It was a good experience. What kind of led up to that. I guess the presbytery was asked to consider hosting it because of a proposal that was presented to the GA. From the Curry Center there in Greensboro, and it was, just a great cost, to host, for the presbytery, and what city Greensboro was willing to do, and it was a good cost point for the General Assembly. And initially, though, the presbytery said no, we're not interested. But under really the leadership of Nathan Klein, the pastor of Friendly Hills. He really pushed it and took over. And he said he would be the chairman of. He would lead it, and then he put together a team. And I just was intrigued by the whole, because I'd been to a couple General Assemblies and been involved in. I was in the hotel business a lot of my adult life and hosting, banquets and conferences at different conference facilities that were in the hotels that I was managing. So I had a little bit of background with that, so I volunteered to help. And Nathan put together a strong team, and there was a lot of doubt amongst the presbytery that we would be able to pull it off. A lot of doubt, but under Nathan's leadership and the team that he put together, it got done. I think got done real well. It was
and so I mean, when I came into the presbytery, the other pastors, teaching elders in the presbytery, told me how great our ruling elders are, because General Assembly, they said, at least for the responsibilities from the presbytery side, wouldn't have been able to be done without Meadowview's ruling elders being involved. And so that was exciting to me, that there was that. Like, what gave you that desire to be involved denominationally? Like where I'm coming from in South Florida, I mean, two of the greatest mentors I had were ruling elders from my local church. But ruling elders down there, I remember some presbytery meetings, we'd have a struggle to have a quorum. And we used to tell the hosting churches, make sure your ruling elders are there so we can have a quorum, And the Piedmont Triad, Meadowview always sends our two that we're allowed. And I'd love to get a third one. Our membership's right under the level to have a third one. But if we did, sometimes Meadowview even sends more than two, and only two are voting members. But Meadowview ruling elders are very desirous to be involved denominationally. Like, where did that come from, and where did it come from for you?
It's a good question. I think it's just, I think it's been instilled in the session from way before I became a member of the session. The ruling elders, were really encouraged to participate. Probably goes back to Gary Cox. He was one of the pastors that was instrumental in forming the Piedmont Triad Presbytery. So I'm sure he was encouraging the ruling elders to go to the meetings, and then Roger Wiles followed that, and especially going to General Assembly, it was very important to him that we took a full complement of people that we could take. So and so we've always just been active in going that. We've always had ruling elders that have been involved in committees. That's not always been easy, because a lot of times the committees, would want to meet during the day, and a ruling elder, if you have a full-time job, those things can be hard to do. But a lot of the presbytery was good about, moving some of the committee meetings, like leadership development and things like that, to the evening, so we could participate. And we typically always had at least one person on a committee.
Yeah. Piedmont Triad is definitely good about that, about encouraging ruling elder involvement. And to be fair to South Florida, the meeting, like you just said, it's like ruling elders have a full-time job. Generally, they have to take off, and our presbytery meetings were on Tuesdays during the day in South Florida. And so, that is tough for REs to be involved when things are on Tuesday. So ours here are on Saturday, and that's helpful. But I also love what you said about you've already hit on a lot of things, a lot of reasons why I want to have these discussions, because my heart and my goal is to encourage more ruling elder involvement at the local level, at the presbytery level, at the local church, presbytery level, and the General Assembly level, but to also help guys know that there's resources out there for them. And y'all have unique struggles. Like you said, you have full-time jobs, and then you have to come in for night meetings. You have to travel for meetings. Pastors, not that we're not busy. We're busy, but if I have a night meeting, there's nothing that stops me from, if my schedule allows it, from not having to come in first thing the next day. But you guys have to, and some of the ruling elders on our session, they got to get to work before 7 a.m. and stuff. And so I'm glad you raised that. Also, with your career, so you do have a long career history in the hospitality industry, and I love how you were able to connect that to the work of the church with General Assembly. And that's more and more what I'm finding is I'm meeting a lot of ruling elders that have amazing giftings and experience out in the world, and how the church, the Lord really brings them into leadership to use those gifts in the body. Now you're working in local government, right?
Right.
Politician? You're a politician, Richard?
No. Civil servant. Civil servant. As Greg Green would put it, because he served his whole adult life as a local county government employee. I joined the county back in 2015. The hotel business, it was a great career. I don't regret it, the time that I spent there. But looking back, if I would have been like Greg and joined the county, local government back when I got right out of college, I'd be retired like him right now, playing tennis, or fishing all the time is what I would have been doing. But but it was a good transition. When the hotel, I was working for a corporate chain back in 2008 with that downturn. Slowly but surely, the chain had worked through the different departments, and in 2011 they got the department I was working in. And if you'd been around a long time with them, I'd been 15 years with them, and you were salary-wise, you were kind of on the higher end than someone just starting, and they were just trying to cut, just to cut salaries and everything. So I was one of those who got kind of cut loose at that time, so we spent some time. I spent some time looking at some different hotel jobs and what we wanted to do, and we knew we didn't want to leave the area. It become home. The kids were raised here. We had our fourth child here. They were at the age, we were about to have in 2011, our oldest daughter was getting married in December of 2011. So we knew we wanted to be around here. So we didn't want to do any big moves, to take another corporate job or things like that, where you might have to move to New Jersey or, wherever. We just weren't interested in doing that. So we had started our own restaurant for a time, and that for a season. And that was a huge learning experience, and ended up not ending real well. But it led to a position with the county, and it's been a good move for me. So,
yeah, and even there, I love how you've been able to connect things going on locally in Davidson County with the church. And I think back to COVID and through some county meetings that you were in, and the senior services, that being like the services in the county for the senior citizens, they raised a number of needs to be able to minister to people during COVID who were shut-ins, and you remember those early days. And so Meadowview was able to come alongside, and I think I don't remember how much money we donated, over $1,000, but we did drives here that raised thousands of dollars of goods, adult incontinence products and Ensure shakes and all that. And we were able to just love the community, and it was because you work in county. And so that was very cool. And you've brought those opportunities to us. And we're in Davidson County here is just a great county with a lot of just still conservative sort of values, and operated relationally. And so I think that's been a great fit.
Right. And the department I lead, transportation, we're carrying people all around the county and here locally, in the two cities of Lexington and Thomasville. So we touch so many different agencies throughout the county, human service agencies, both county departments, but outside the county. So there's just a wide network of information that we gather and gain, and we get to know the residents very, very well, and some of the issues in the county. So, from a ministry point of view, it's like the Bible says, the fields are white. He's looking for someone to go out and help, minister to these folks that are in need. So it gives us a good connection with the county, and we have some other county employees too that go to the church. So, we got so it just gives us a good ground, kind of a groundwork to base some of the ministries at Meadowview on. There's some connection there.
Like you wouldn't think, or I wouldn't think. So you're the transportation director, right? Is that what you're for the county? And yet there's this. You definitely view your job as a calling, as a ministry, and not just in managing the transportation fleet and the routes or whatever, but like you just kind of mentioned again the connection with senior services. So do you oversee the Meals on Wheels program, or do you facilitate that? Like, how does that work?
No, that's a senior services ministry. Now during COVID, because of the way we were operating, I was able to actually do every Monday was my day. I served. I would deliver meals. We'd take a week's worth of frozen meals out and deliver them on Mondays. So I had a route that I was serving there. But we're not on the doing the Meals on Wheels, but we provide transportation for senior services for especially for seniors, bring them to the facilities for congregate meals. Or socialization. We go to the hospitals, we go to the doctor's offices, pharmacies, take people grocery shopping, about anything that someone needs, they can get through our department. Senior services, I have an employee who's based there who schedules their transportation, and then we have people here at my office that schedule the general public for any need. And there's no charge for any of those services to the county residents.
Now, I've never heard of that. Is that common to other, like, do other counties do that? Is that common in North Carolina or even around the country?
No, I think it's been during COVID. A lot of agencies stopped charging just so they could try to keep the people moving, as people were real hesitant. COVID going around. You don't really necessarily want to be on a enclosed bus. So a lot of agents did that, but no, it's very uncommon to have no fees. But the county commissioners and the leadership have just stuck to that plan where they didn't want to get involved. We did a fare study a couple of years ago to see about implementing a fare, and that was the study came back. A consulting group did it for us, and we're going to lose $60,000 a year by charging a fare because of the additional staff you have to hire, the different protocols you have to put in to manage that money, and the amount of people you lose who just have no money, who couldn't afford, even if it was 50 cents, they wouldn't have been able to afford it. For that transportation. So it's just the model that the county has
yeah, I love it to take care of the seniors in the area. And so you've did I pick up on this that you've helped or you've recruited people from the church to drive for you?
2 of them. Yeah.
And what are they driving? What do they do?
They're driving. We have Elder Emeritus who drives for me, and an active deacon who's retired. He drives for us too, and they drive a 25-foot bus on what we call deviated fixed routes. So they have a particular run they do, and they'll do it for 6 hours, 2 to 3 shifts a week. We use all of our drivers are part-time. We don't have any full-time drivers, and they're all typically retired. A lot of school bus drivers, different things. They just have to have a CDL and go through our training process. And then some of them do it just to be active still, want to sit around the house. So kind of like what you preached on recently about that identity. You get your identity from a career, and all of a sudden they're retired. They don't know what to do. Well, we're a good alternative to give them something to do. To get them out a little bit, and
oh, that's great.
They make a little bit of pocket money too. I mean, they're not going to get rich. It gives them some money to do some stuff with too.
Yeah.
But they also, from those two gentlemen's perspective, they see it as a ministry too. Because we're carrying, the homeless. There's mental ill people that are homeless that we're their source to get around to anything they need to do. So you see the wide range of the public.
Yes,
and they get to minister to them.
I'm glad you said that. Yeah. So, like you said, you have how many grandkids do you have?
I have 5.
5 grandkids. You're just too young for 5 grandkids. And you really are like a teddy bear with them. I love seeing you and Jennifer with your grandkids. So, you have grandkids. You have your kids are adults, but they're young. So there's
right.
Young families. Wife Jennifer, of course. And so how do you manage, how do you find the tension between shepherding here at the church and work and family? And when I say shepherding at the church, I mean, Meadowview elders are true shepherds in the sense of the word. I mean, you guys are doing visitation not only in people's homes but in the hospitals. You're checking on your people. You run a life group. We have a number of meetings a month, although hopefully since my time here, the meetings have gotten less. You're always willing to teach a class. You teach, again, the Discovering Meadowview class, which is our new members class. Until recently, you've taught the officer training class. So given all that, like, how do you find the work-life balance particular to ministry and the calling you feel to the body of Christ?
I guess, over the years when I became an elder and part of session, I was traveling for a living. So I was gone basically all week long. The meeting schedule worked out because we typically, back then, we would meet on Monday evenings and what, so I could leave, I'd usually leave on Tuesday morning or something. So I wouldn't, miss that, too many of the meetings. But the struggle, with the home life and working and serving as elder were a little harder back then because I was gone. So Jennifer spent a lot of time, raising our children, not as a single mom, but kind of like one. We homeschooled our children, so she was doing all the homeschooling and all the, how it is, kids go in every direction, especially when they get to be, early teens and teenagers before they can drive. So you're carting them everywhere. So it was tougher back then, but now that, working locally makes it, that struggle a little easier. And of course it's just Jennifer at home now, so there's more time. So you kind of go through a season, through seasons of real life where things are just harder, but it was just a priority. You just make the time. And I don't see it as a burden.
Yeah. Before I'm still at a point where I was a ruling elder longer than I've been a teaching elder. And I want to look at the years at some point, because I think I may be eclipsing that soon. But that has given me the perspective of, what it is to work, raise kids, but teach in the church, shepherd in the church. I served in South Florida as a ruling elder on the administrative committee of the church, which just helped oversee staff and policies and documents and that kind of stuff. So I get it too, and the thing was, for me, it was a lot of late nights and a lot of Saturdays prepping for classes, but
right.
I never viewed it as work. I viewed it as, I couldn't think of what I'd rather be doing with my free time, but it was because I had a supportive wife, right. And I don't believe the kids sacrificed. I just don't see that in our home. I did a lot with my kids and still do, but it does seem to be an increasingly difficult for the next generation to take that plunge, as we think of getting older elders and leadership development and stuff. There's been a number of guys that it's just, they don't have the time for it. I don't know what the answer to that is. Have you noticed that?
Oh no, I definitely have. I think part of that problem is our problem is over the years, especially as clerk, and we were trying to develop more leaders to come on. There was a period of time where we told too many of the young men, no, you can wait till you're a little older. And I was, in 2004, I was, how old was I? I was in my 30s, I guess. And I still had relatively small children. I guess I was 40 when I became an elder, but still had children at home. And, I didn't see it, if God's calling you, for example, like a teaching elder. Taylor's a good example. I mean, he probably went to seminary a little longer than some, just because of the circumstances of life. But no one tells a teaching elder, well, wait till you're 50 before you go to seminary.
Yeah,
it happens, but that's not the way it's normally done. So you got these young guys coming out to become pastors and teaching elders, and no one's discouraged, from that, because it's going to take away so much time. Of course, that's their full time. Hopefully, that's their full time vocation. When they become a pastor, they're not necessarily there's anything wrong with it, but they're not by vocation where they have to get a job to help pay because the church can't afford them. So I think we've done some coddling of the church, and we've told them, no, you can just wait. But if God's calling you to do something, Moses was 80, David was young, so so some of it I think is just our we've kind of gone with the world and telling these people, hey, we'll take care of you.
Right. I think it's like there's been a pendulum swing in society from maybe before you're in my generation where men were just workaholics and absentee fathers, and so there's such a focus on being there for the family, and praise God, because I see
I agree.
I just see a lot of good young dads who are helpful in the home and involved in their kids' lives. But I think like there's got to be space in life for other things. And I often thought, like, I don't know. I mean, like, as I've thought through this with my family, I just don't remember. I'm not saying there was never a Saturday where I was busy and I didn't get to do something with the kids. Of course that existed. But over the 10 years or whatever that I was a ruling elder, most of it was just life at church, and the family was at the church, and my whole family was very involved in our former church, and so we were together,
Right.
I think too, there's like leadership development. I think it's got to come from, like, you don't just see a guy and think, hey, you want to be an elder, like you're discipling them over the years such that it's a natural next step for those that the Lord is calling, as opposed to like just this disjointed, like, you're not an elder and now we want you to be one,
Yeah.
Well, we got a great candidate right now that we're training, that if he's I guess he's 40. Yeah. So when I was brought up as an elder, I think I was 35. I was in my 30s, and the session just loved me onto their body, even though I was probably a little more impatient than they were used to and a little brasher than they used to at my old church. I'd been at the church a number of years. They loved me. They liked the energy that I brought, and I had good older men, fathers in the faith there to help me sort of reshape some of those habits or tendencies that are in me, and I probably still have them. But Mediview Session's been extremely gracious and patient with me, and I just 4 years here has been just great, and I love y'all's heart to shepherd the flock, and to fill in the gaps where the teaching elders can't,
Right.
Like, you guys hired 3 teaching elders who are from out of town. My family's in Florida. Pablo's is mostly Missouri, and Taylor's is closer, but still Virginia. And, I have a big family in Florida. I must have 30, 40 relatives down there with cousins and aunts and uncles, and my grandparents are still alive. And so the holidays are a time to go, to see them, because the kids are off from school. And, I know sometimes adjusting our schedules, the 3 teaching elders, so that we have coverage here is tough when it's a school break and there's a holiday. And you were one of the guys that was like, we'll cover whatever needs to happen, and and again, if there's a crisis or something and somebody needs a visitation, or you guys are, it's a blessing. So
we have a great team of teaching elders right now. I mean, the 3 of y'all work so well together.
Thanks. Yeah.
So it makes being an elder, ruling elder, that much easier, where you're not fretting over, is it going to be taken care of? It just is.
Yeah, well, that's encouraging. Thanks, Richard. And that's the way I feel about our session. And so we currently have 9 ruling elders. We have maybe 3 or 4 emeritus, guys in their 80s and 70s. That still very much act as shepherds here, as a matter of
Right.
fact. So that's a blessing. I don't know. As we wrap up, what are I don't know if this is wrapping up or not. What are some of your thoughts and encouragements about the PCA? Your love for the PCA? Yeah.
Yeah,
Concerns, whatever.
well, I think there are some concerns right now because of what we're seeing with this. I don't know if I got the terms right, but like this missional kind of movement, to where the church feels that they need to look more like the culture to be accepted by the culture, be able to minister to the culture. And I just don't see that in Scripture. I'm thankful for pastors like yourself and the GRN and those guys who are wanting to hold fast to the Scriptures and preaching the gospel. Just the gospel is what's going to do the work in the life of an unbeliever or in the life of believers as part of sanctification. So, making it a little bit more. We want to be winsome, but we don't want to change it to say, oh, it's okay. God loves you, and make like what their lifestyle is okay. Jesus interacted with the masses, but he didn't leave them. When he stepped into someone's life, he didn't leave them in that lifestyle. He come follow me. So there is a concern there. What 10 years from now, 5 years from now, what's the PCA going to look like? I'm hopeful that it's going to be stronger. That we'll see men, and both in teaching elders and ruling elders, holding to the mandate, to the gospel.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I think you do have the term right there, and of course, the word missional doesn't mean. I mean, we all want mission, but it's a posture
Right.
toward culture, and I don't. People who subscribe to that philosophy of ministry probably wouldn't describe it that way, but that's our observation of it.
Right.
And so I would agree with what you're saying. Trying to think if there's anything else. I don't know. I may have you on again. Thank you for being for breaking me in here on
You're
this
welcome.
this episode. Yeah. So
It was a good conversation.
great, good. Okay, well then with that we will sign off, and so we hope it's encouraging for you. We hope. I love that Richard he's been in the PCA 25 years, an elder for not quite 20 years, but we didn't even talk about him being clerk of session and keeping us all organized and all that, and just it's good, man. It's good that we teaching elders are not alone, and so
Right.
I want more and more to. What I said to you before we started recording. It's like in the 25 years you've been here, you've had at least 4 senior pastors and maybe twice as many assistant or associate pastors come and go.
Right.
And that's the nature of full-time ordained ministry. But who the Lord has placed in his churches to keep the ship steady, to be the voice of reason, to really know the people and be in the lives of the people and shepherd the people and keep things going when teaching elders, pastors come and go is the ruling elders. And so thank you for doing that and carrying on the legacy here at Meadowview. And I'm glad that you all decided to bring me in and be a
We're
part of
glad
that
to have
legacy.
It was a wise move on our part.
Oh, hey, man, I appreciate that.
Actually, that's a whole other conversation about how God moved during that whole period. Bringing in the executive pastor, then the executive or the senior pastor leaving shortly thereafter, knowing that you were there and could lead the ship. So, that's God's hand throughout that process.
What I love about that process is seeing the great unity on the session, and I know we don't want to get in all that, just but how the session came together because of the common bond in Jesus Christ and care for the kingdom of God and the shepherding of the flock. And it's just a beautiful thing, the way our session works. Not that we don't have our disagreements or crazy meetings, but you know what I mean. Okay, so with that, I will sign off. Richard, thanks for being on with me. Yeah, okay. Until next time. Yeah, until next time on this episode of Presbyterian Reformed Churchman, I'm Pastor George signing off.